Date: circa 50. Point post. Point VCM. Point M42. Location: Volstrom, Elix Sector. To those loyal to the Golden Throne, I am the last of the Ordo Charon's 3 members. The Ordo's creation to root out the venomous cult known as the Risorgimento has cost the lives of my 2 peers, and for me, the cost has been far, far greater. As I present this report, Volstrom is in the death throes orchestrated by my killers. They are willing to let this entire Hive City burn, along with the billions of souls within it, to ensure my silence. We suspect the Risorgimento began its abominable existence on the shrine world Umbra Virum, although whoever sowed the initial seed of their heresy is still unknown. The Risorgimento hold the heretical belief that the God Emperor had planned for Malkador the Hero to sit upon the Golden Throne in his place, whilst he wished to die from the injuries he sustained in defeating Horus, thus being resurrected anew to crush the enemies of the Imperium. The cult's insane conclusion from this is that the Emperor must be removed from the throne and allowed to die. The Ordo Charon uncovered several plots of regicide to achieve this, but have met our fate before we could act. The Risorgimento have claws sank into the Ecclesiarchy, Inquisition, Astra Militarum, and even those within the Imperium ruling class. Such is the reach of the cult that anyone who is even suspected of being too close to knowing of their existence will disappear or be ruined, effectively letting the cult act with total impunity. However, in recent times the Risorgimento have kicked a hornet's nest that even they will struggle to stamp out. This chain of events began with Ordo Xenos Inquisitor Constantius Pius, a highly dangerous Risorgimento member. Pius was renowned within the Ordo as a leading light on the workings of the Hive fleets and their relationship with the Genestealer Xenos strain. He was researching the synaptic connections of the Hive mind and looking for ways to potentially overrule it, thus seizing control of the Hive fleet. We strongly believe that he plans to somehow weaponize the Tyranid scourge against Holy Terror for the cult's heretical resurrection. Ordo records show that Pius was known to have utilized the Ordo Xenos' chamber militant, the Death Watch, to procure live Genestealer or Patriarch specimens for supposed Xenos studies. These would then be used to either manually infect loyal volunteers, allowing them to sow the Genestealer presence onto worlds specified by the Risorgimento, or alternatively, they would free the live specimen there instead. These actions were discovered by Ulf Stoneshield, a son of Russ who had served the Long Vigil under Pius. The Inquisitor tried to bury Stoneshield with his pack, Hive's Bane, after the Cryptus Genesis War by declaring them traitors, along with all those they were trying to protect and fighting alongside. This included the last remains of the Weeping Skulls chapter and Astartes of the Blood Angels 6th Company. My source confirms that the remains of the Weeping Skulls chapter and the other survivors of the Cryptus Genesis War have found refuge with the fleet of reformed rogue trader Rasputin Fellaini, the cad who, regardless of his highly respected lineage, chose an outlaw's lifestyle, building a fleet made up of pirates, gangers, gun runners, and whose tales of his often vicious deeds both horrified and titillated the Hive cities across the Milky Way, until he was eventually reborn as a family man. How this coalition between the Emperor's Angels of Death and the criminality of some of the vermin in Rasputin's company will play out, I do not know. What I do know is that they are carving a path across this broken galaxy for answers. Judging from the Imperial obituaries and Arbites crime reports I have read, I would say that they are cutting their bloody path in the correct direction. It is my understanding that the Weeping Skulls and Fellaini fleet have crossed paths with other lost or exiled Astartes who have, seemingly, joined this cold war to destroy the Risorgimento threat. Unlike the handful of Marines from the other chapters, the entirety of the Weeping Skulls chapter has been wrongfully declared excommunicate traitoris. This means that all their sacrifice, honors, and loyalties will be erased from mankind's historical records, never to be spoken of again. Therefore, I feel it is my duty to the God Emperor to shine his blessed light onto these classified annals, to try and preserve their legacy. The Weeping Skulls are a successor of the Raven Guard lineage, and were forged in the 26th founding of 738.M41. The chapter were born into the Viper's Nest, founded to contain the growing Chaos presence in the Sabbat World sector. Their homeworld, which has since been removed, was the moon of Ballista II, which orbited Nova Terra. Their other duties were to patrol the frontier of the Segmentum Pacificus. However, within only 8 years they were thrust into the Constantinus iconoclasm and the subsequent descent of the entire Sabbat World sector. Barely up to full fighting capacity, the Weeping Skulls became the only Imperial presence within the fallen sector. Through this, the chapter developed into experts at guerrilla and psychological warfare, spreading as far across the Sabbat Worlds as they could to undermine and break the forces of the ruinous powers. The Weeping Skulls were hailed as one of numerous heroes of the Sabbat World's crusade, an honor which has since been redacted. Victory for the Emperor is all that matters to the chapter. This can be achieved by any means necessary, utilizing the enemy's own tools of war against it, whether Xenos or not is a viable option. However, I have only found hearsay which purports to this, as the subject does not appear to be discussed anywhere outside of the chapter. The Weeping Skulls believe that breaking the morale of the enemy is as important as breaking their bodies. Their librarians utilize a network of serf spies and then act as vanguards, performing roles like the spies of some bygone feudal era of Terra's past. They move behind enemy lines to sabotage and confuse before the opening salvo is even fired. The chapter has also developed a tome called the Trauma Scrolls, which teaches the doctrine of psychologically breaking the numerous enemies of the Imperium. This has included reports of Chaos altars being consecrated with Aquila, which have also been carved into the heads and chests of their heretical priests, the heads of Orc knobs being painted blue and sewn onto the bodies of Grots or Drukhari to belittle their reputation. Some communications have even mentioned the sight of Weeping Skulls Marines running to engage with the Eldar, whilst wearing spirit stones that the chapter removed from those they had already killed. Some of their brothers have been known to fall into the temptation of sadism or bloodlust by going beyond the teachings of the Trauma Scrolls. These rare cases are instantly and discreetly dealt with in an act of execution known as salvus interventus, which is typically performed by a chapter chaplain. This is a dark secret which the chapter does not even discuss amongst itself, and I have only found out through regrettable means. After the Imperium reclaimed the Sabbat World sector, the Weeping Skulls began to fulfill their other duty of seeking out and neutralizing threats hidden beyond the light of the Emperor's gaze. This included the Mugazun counterinsurgency in 953.M41, where the Weeping Skulls' 4th Company was locked in a 50 Terran-year-long battle with the Bloodaxe Orc war boss, Emperor Scar Slugger Shadowcrump Mugazun, and his sacrilege Imperium of Mork. The chapter also set up outposts in the Ghoul Stars, after the Black Templars' crusade to eradicate the Scyther Fiends ended with them having to return to Armageddon and its 3rd war against the Orcs. However, it was the Cryptus Genesis War and its fallout which brutally rerouted the chapter's existence. After the fall of Cadia and the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum, commonly known as the Great Rift in 999.M41, the Weeping Skulls had fought in the Indominus Crusade under our Lord Commander of the Imperium, Rabute Guilliman. Chronological records are convoluted at best since the Great Rift. but it is believed that 6 of the 8 Weeping Skulls companies were traveling back to their garrison in the Segmentum Pacificus within the Imperium Sanctus around 110.M42. During this journey, the chapter's fleet received a distress call sent from Cryptus Genesis, an uninhabited frontier world situated along the edge of the Veiled region. The message was from an exploratory clergy of priests from the Adeptus Mechanicus, who were performing geomorphological rituals on the planet to discover whether it was deserving of the holy act of terraforming. Accompanying them was a security and diplomatic retinue, led by Bethan Fellaini, Rasputin Fellaini's son. Personal records note that Bethan's wife, Elisa, and their daughter, Lisbeth, joined him on this journey. The majority of their astropaths were lost in sending the distress call which stated that Cryptus Genesis was facing immediate Hive Fleet invasion, and the whole system was facing potential annihilation. Recovered journals from Bethan Fellaini also spoke of an Imperial bunker hidden under the surface of Cryptus Genesis. Amongst its sinister contents was a half-dissected patriarch wired to a monolith. Tech priests confirmed that this was a beacon to attract a Hive fleet. Around this time, Hive's Bane arrived on the planet. The patriarch was known to Ulf Stoneshield, and he was seeking it as proof of Pius's treason. The journals state that Hive's Bane slaughtered a unit of unnamed Tempestus Scions, whose activities on the planet are recorded nowhere, except in Ordo Xenos classified reports. Cross-referencing the reports with Bethan's logs, it appears the Tempestus were acting under Inquisitor Pius to exterminate all who were connected with the bunker's discovery. Transcripts of the distress message Bethan's team sent, as well as Administratum data which we intercepted prior to the Ordo Redactor seizing it, show that it was sent before Hive's Bane's arrival, and over 100 years prior to the Weeping Skulls receiving it. Such are the great rift's twisted effects on time. One can travel between parts of the galaxy who are experiencing events which are years, even centuries apart, whereas time remains constant for all involved. It would seem that these various flows of time inadvertently aided those on Cryptus Genesis, whose chronological records indicate they had only just been cut off by the Cicatrix Maledictum in their hour of need. The Great Rift spat out saviors in the form of a 6th Company Blood Angels Nova-class cruiser, which had become separated from its fleet in a warp storm whilst racing back to aid with the defense of Baal against Hive Fleet Leviathan. Then, within the hour, the Weeping Skulls fleet emerged into the maelstrom of the Hive Fleet's invasion. The war eradicated the combined forces down to a few hundred Weeping Skulls, 2 Blood Angel Marines, and Ulf Stoneshield, who lost his entire pack. Despite this, they kept Bethan and the remainder of the survivors alive. The evacuation of Cryptus Genesis cost the Weeping Skulls more of their number. They emerged from the planet to join their fleet, which was already being brutalized from both the Tyranid forces, which has since been logged as Hive Fleet Saul, and an Imperial Armada, which was in servitude to Inquisitor Pius, who were attempting to destroy the supposed traitors. Once again, in an act of pathos, the Great Rift appeared to aid their escape with a double-edged blade. A warp storm engulfed the battle, swallowing up Morbus Bellator, the chapter's dual flagship and fortress monastery, along with some of Hive Fleet Saul and the chapter's gene seed. Ships from all sides were swamped in the demonic. Sage Medulla, Bethan's closest aide and only surviving astropath, was trying to reach Rasputin Fellaini's fleet when the forces of Chaos tried to utilize his psychic abilities as a conduit for their denizens. Those present confirmed that Bethan Fellaini, despite a lack of knowledge of Chaos and the Warp, outsmarted the demons into revealing their plan, and with his final, dying act, executed his friend, thus sending the ruinous beasts back into the Immaterium and enabling their ship's escape. With the Fellaini fleet as a cover, I hope they can smuggle the Space Marines where they need to be, and that the Risorgimenta will be torn apart, exposed, and that the Weeping Skulls and their new allies will be, finally, cleared. for the Emperor. Signed, Lucius Invictus, Ordo Charon of the God Emperor's Holy Inquisition. Postscriptum. I have paid the price for learning some of the hidden secrets I report. I confess to spilling the blood of my Ordo Charon companions to prove worthy of the wisdom given me by the same chaos entities that Bethan Fellaini thwarted. They showed me everything, even the horrors they desire to do to Bethan's family. My mind is broken, and my body burns with blasphemous blemishes. In a final twist, upon disclosing their knowledge to me, they have destroyed Volstrom, leaving me unable to share these findings. The city is in ruins, occupied by only the corpses and I. The demons have decided to keep me alive for their demented amusement. I am to cast this Vox report across the desolated city for eternity, or until my tormentors grow bored. I forget how many hundreds of years I have sat at this terminal, blood from my ravaged throat coating the Voxcaster with each repeated word. I am a fool. I used evil for good. It gave me everything but amassed to nothing. Date, circa 50.post.vcm.m42. Location, Volstrom, Elix Sector. To those loyal to the Golden Throne, I am the last of the Ordo Charon's 3 members.